167 Celtic News YouTube channel. Today, Wednesday, the 20th of September. Today, going to do a review, autopsy of Celtic's 2-0 loss last night to Feyenoord. Also, a little bit of overnight potential transfer signing news for Celtic also. Before we get going, please like and subscribe. Completely free of charge to subscribe to the channel. Completely free of charge to like a video also. No obligation to buy, no obligation to keep on watching every single video and just dipping in and out as you please. Also, daily Celtic themed trivia questions in the community section. And so please do like and subscribe, try and get the numbers up to target number 2. So last night Celtic lost their Champions League opening fixture yet again, 2-0. Again, one of those performances that flattered to deceive. I thought Celtic in the first half did a fine job, keeping themselves in the game. The great majority of Feyenoord's attacks were nullified and fizzled out. Quite a lot of poorly directed long shots. And for the most part, Celtic were on top. Not quite sure where the referee found 3 minutes of added time in that first half, but a minute and a half through the added time, Feyenoord had a long-range free kick. Stengs did curl a nice shot. They exploited the fact that the pitch was extra wet and slick, because despite the rain, Feyenoord had soaked the pitch with sprinklers before the game started to speed up the pitch. A number of organisational errors. Hart probably a bit too far over to his right on the goal line. However, the wall is there to stop the ball. Quite why our smallest player, Kyogo, was on the side of the wall which was protecting that post, I'm not sure. Quite why Kyogo jumped up in the air, turning his body to avoid the ball rather than letting the ball hit him. Quite a number of things. Had Kyogo stayed where he was supposed to be, or had there been a taller player on the edge of the wall, that ball simply hits the defender, bounces away, and we go into half-time 0-0. As I said, Hart was a bit too far over to his right probably. However, he did have time to get back to his left, did get part of a hand to the ball, but the ball beat him and went in. Probably related to the fact that the ball kicked off the pitch with extra pace and also bounced higher than expected, given how slick the pitch was. I thought going in 1-0 down was rather unfair. Celtic had actually had a good couple of chances. I think the best, nearest anyone got to a goal in the first half was Dyson Maida, who shot left-footed from the edge of the box, and the Feyenoord goalkeeper made a very fine save, diving right across to his right. Also, rather disappointingly, a pretty obvious blatant foul in the box on Dyson Maida appeared to escape the referee, the assistant referee, and VAR apparently did review it, but did not ask the referee to have a look at it. Rather odd, because the defender made absolutely no contact on Maida, on the ball, and his contact took out Maida and took out Maida's ability to shoot for goal, and should have been a penalty. Second half started fine, Celtic still in the game, and then very controversially, a nothing challenge by Lagerbielka, simply ushering the ball back to Hart. Paixão, the Brazilian winger, went down as if he'd been shot by a firing squad, writhing along the ground. Referee initially seemed to ignore it, then the assistant referee flagged and told him it was a penalty. And then, rather bizarrely, for pretty much a nothing foul, the referee got his yellow card out, sending off Lagerbielka. Not too unexpectedly, VAR, as it seems to do in Europe 99 times out of 100, accepted the referee's decision, and nothing was changed. Happily, Joe Hart did save the penalty, and Celtic remained in the game. I was a bit disappointed that Rodgers took Kyogo off rather than taking off one of the wide players or taking off one of the midfielders. I think when Kyogo's on the pitch, there's always the possibility of him scoring a goal. Players such as Maida, Palma, Yang, McGregor, Hatate, O'Reilly, all very good players, but not such a goal threat. And as Kyogo proved at Rangers a couple of weeks ago, if he gets chances, he will score. However, Iwata came on. I thought Iwata and Scales did a fine job. I thought Lagerbielka had a fine game as well, keeping the Feyenoord attacking players under control. Odin Thiago Holm had shown some nice touches after he came on to replace Rio Hatate, but rather stupidly, he did get himself into a sliding challenge. Ordinarily, the sliding challenge wouldn't have carried him into the player. However, it did, and by Jiminy did the Feyenoord player make every possibility to show the referee that he'd got a broken leg and that Holm had been guilty of reckless, violent conduct. Again, as would be expected, VAR simply ratified the referee's decision on the pitch, and Celtic were down to 9 men. We did keep ourselves in the game. A couple of times we did get the ball up the other end, but for the most part we were defending and kept the score down to 2-0. There were 2 goals disallowed for offside, which were clearly offside, and happily offside is decided primarily by the computer rather than any VAR referees. One of the disappointing things is I don't think any of Celtic's players really came out with particularly good ratings. I thought Celtic's best player probably over the whole 90 minutes was Alistair Johnston. Good at defending, gets himself stuck in, was occasionally managing to get forward, supporting midfield and attack. And he probably was Celtic's best player on the night. Dyson Maida had a good first half, but second half was rather anonymous. Kyogo can't really be blamed apart from when he jumped out the way of the ball in the wall, in that nobody really gave him much in the way of a chance to score. And he did his best trying to create space for people to run into. Did keep himself always being available for the pass or the cross. Both Yang and Palma showed good pace down the sides, occasional nice dribbles, but Feyenoord clearly have a very well organised defence. My biggest disappointment was our middle 3, O'Reilly, McGregor and Hatate. I think Hatate probably was just a game or 2 in Scotland off being back to full match sharpness. I thought he played very well against Dundee, but of course that's at a lower pace with lower quality players. I think he probably was just a game or two short of full fitness, which of course is encouraging for the Lazio fixture in a couple of weeks' time. McGregor was rather anonymous, and O'Reilly, whom other pundits have thought had a good game, for me actually was very disappointing. Didn't really get involved in the midfield tussle, didn't really get himself forward, was never really making himself available for passes from Scales, Lagerbielke, Johnston and Taylor. And I think Celtic lost the game to a large extent because our middle three really were not much of a threat going forward. Didn't really win any of the tussles in midfield and weren't really able to distribute the ball properly. So Celtic were always rushing around like headless chickens, not terribly well organised. And at many times I just wished Joe Hart had punted the ball up the other end, because with the way that Feyenoord play out from the back, there was always the possibility that we could have turned over the ball in their final third and set up a goal. That did nearly work in the first half, and of course, in the second half, Kyogo half blocked a clearance by the goalkeeper, which did go to Palma, who was obstructed in the box, fairly similar to the Lagerbielke obstruction, very Palma's obstruction on Pak Shao. However, the referee didn't think Palma had been obstructed or pulled down by the Feyenoord defender, and as would be expected, VAR simply gave a couple of ticks for the referee's decision being correct. So going forward, I think there are quite a lot of things to be optimistic about. I thought Celtic in the first half held their own, arguably had the better chance or closer to scoring, had what was a pretty clear penalty turned down. Were rather unlucky, definitely with the Lagerbielke penalty and red card. Home, I will accept, technically is a red card, but the Feyenoord player made it 100% certain that the referee is going to send him off. And then miraculously, the magic sponge, a bit of pain-killing spray, a bit of a rub down by the physio, and lo and behold, the player's fit and ready to play another 30 minutes of European Champions League football. So we go into our next fixture against Lazio, which will be a home fixture. Lazio, of course, drew their first game with Atletico with a goal from their goalkeeper deep into added time. Lazio haven't had the best start to their season, and so I think if Celtic's players turn up, if we have players such as Hatate back to full match fitness and sharpness, if we have Nat Phillips back in defence, even the remote possibility of CCV back in defence by that time. I think also by that time, players such as Palma, Yang will be more fitting into the system. I think Paulo Bernardo also could be an important player for Celtic in Europe. We will have the suspensions of Lagerbielke and Home to cope with. We are more covered in central midfield, but in central defence, we are going to need Phillips back definitely to full fitness, and ideally CCV, and potentially we would only really have a Wata on the bench to cover central defence if Phillips and CCV don't recover. So overall, rather disappointing night for Celtic. So reminiscent of virtually every opening night in the Champions League in recent memories. I think we have to go back to the days of Martin O'Neill and Gordon Strachan to have memories of Celtic teams who actually did take control of matches and get on the front foot and overpower and outplay good sides. I think Feyenoord are a team just slightly better than us, and I think the real difference between the two was the home advantage, which helped them, I think, with refereeing decisions, and it helped them in terms of encouragement. And I think also that Feyenoord are a more experienced side. They, of course, did get to semi-final of Europa League and final of the Conference Cup in the past couple of seasons. They are Dutch champions, which means they have had to beat high-quality teams such as PSV and Ajax to get there. And so I think close, but no cigar, as some people would say. But I am actually more hopeful now of the Lazio game than I had been before. But that is dependent on our various players keeping fit, and Hatate regaining full match sharpness, and Yang and Palmer fitting into the system, and getting a better understanding with the midfield and Kyogo. Interesting overnight news. Celtic appear to be exploring signing Nemanja Jovic, who is a Serbian international, 21 years old. He chose to leave Partizan Belgrade in the summer. He had been offered contracts to go to Saudi Arabia, but chose to turn them down, and remained unsigned throughout all the various different European transfer windows. He is a free agent player, and so could be signed in between the summer and the winter transfer windows. He is a young, talented player. Whether Celtic need another young, talented player who's going to be a development project, I don't know. There also would be some concerns regarding work permits and visas and how well he'll settle down in Scotland. He has a career record of 106 matches with 19 goals and 10 assists. However, in the 22-23 season, he had just 2 goals and 2 assists in 25 matches. He is 5'6", and appears to be a pacey, tricky, wide player. But given the fact that we already do have Abada, Yang, Palmer, Forrest as tricky wide, and Mikey Johnson for that matter, as tricky wide players, I'm not sure we need another one. If this was a young Scottish player who had fallen out of favour at Man United or Man City, Liverpool, etc., or had been playing and training overseas in Italy or France and had chosen to come back to Scotland, I think Celtic would be well advised to look at him and sign him. However, yet another player who won't fit into the quota system to cover a place where we do actually have quite a few different alternatives, and have players who are more development projects. I I feel Celtic probably should take a pass on signing Nemanja Jovic. However, we'll see how that develops over the next couple of days. So, for today, we'll leave things at that stage there. May come back to a few thoughts of the Feyenoord match tomorrow, when we'll start to look at our weekend game against Livingston. So for today, please do click the like and subscribe buttons. Do have a wee go at the trivia question in the community section, and up until the Livingston matches, the questions will have a Livingston Celtic theme. So for today, thanks for watching, thanks for listening, goodbye, and hail, hail.